whole species made for heroes of nature, heroes of nature, heroes of nature. Save them all in every corner of the world. They hear the frightened call of animals in need of help. In saving them, they'll save us all. Heroes of nature, heroes of nature, heroes of nature. Save them all.
This is the red kangaroo, which is probably the best known. It's the big kangaroo of the open country. This is the grey kangaroo, the big kangaroo of the woods and the forest. And then there's the wallaroo, the big kangaroo of the hills and the mountains. These are all orphaned. Most of these were reared in our house, so they're all pets, if you like.
Why is that? Just different breeds?
Yeah, and then the wallaroo is very coarse. See how we go here now. This will be the hard part. If we can pick one up. Huh? Oh, it's easy, isn't it? Huh? Easy. Now, come and have a look at its back foot, Jordan. Now, see, you grab its back foot.
Yeah, it's very long.
Yeah, now its back foot. Its foot is longer than its head, you see. But they're very...
John Wamsley built his first animal sanctuary outside the city in the heart of the Adelaide Hills. Here in Warrawong, he saves all the species threatened in Australia. Jordan is his neighbour's son. Most days the teenager drops in on John after school. Over the years they've become accomplices. Jordan admires the man and listens to every word he says. John forgets he's 65 and walks the paths of Warrawong, sharing his love of nature and wild animals with his young friend.
Yeah. Okay, so come up here and I'll show you some other things. I've been working with animals all my life. When I was as long as I could remember, I used to have animals. I come from a farm. I grew up on a farm. I started with lizards and snakes and through possums and all sorts of things, but I just love nature and I love animals, and I get very sad to see them disappear.
John Wamsley is a shy, self-conscious giant, but when he discovered that the fauna of Australia was dramatically disappearing, this solitary man, without any reservations, went to war. He gave up his successful career in mathematics to attack harmful animal species and the government to create wildlife protection laws. John did everything. There were no limits. Nothing could stop him. Neither death threats nor prison. In 1969, he created the first Australian animal sanctuary, Warrawong.
The best way to put animals somewhere where you want to put them back is to go and catch animals in the wild and to release them. But you can't always do that because sometimes they'll only let you have one pair or two pairs or something. And so you have to do captive breeding. I don't particularly like captive breeding. I'd like not to do it because when you do captive breeding, you break down a lot of things, social structures that you really shouldn't break down because you need them, the animal needs them. Before we opened to the public, we got one pair of quoll from Flinders University that they'd been doing experiments on. And we've built that one pair into a colony of about 100 quoll. It's the only successful quoll breeding program in the world. Eastern quoll, that's the eastern quoll. And the eastern quoll is now extinct on the mainland, probably gone. And so it's very important. Yeah, coming in. Yeah, so coming in. And lift that back up here, lift it up and put it back, and then lift up the next one, this end, it lifts from on the side there, this shot. And we'll just grab one of those out gently. And then you close that all up again before they all come out, and then we've got another lot later. Just gently, alright, everything's alright. And we'll come down into the light a bit, we'll come down there. Got beautiful fur on them, beautiful spotty fur. We got over 50 young we bred last year, and we released quite a few back into Victoria because they're wonderful animals. You breed them, and that's in itself is, you've got to work that out how to do it, but once you've cracked that, then the next step is the release, because you can't just put animals back in the wild that have been captive bred. It doesn't work because they've lost all their structures, so you've got to rebuild those structures. And we do that by what we call a soft release, so that when we want to release quoll back into the wild, we'll put them in the pens where they were like what they were bred in, but they might be in a different place, and we feed them as they were fed. And then when they've settled down and think that the world is just that, then we open up little doors where they can come and go. And then one day they decide not to come back, and that's the best day of all, because they've made it.
The quoll is a marsupial. The quoll population has been constantly declining since the beginning of the 20th century. The animal all but disappeared from the continent in the 1960s, probably due to an epidemic transmitted by domestic cats. Quolls are excellent climbers and live in forests and bushes. Females have litters of up to 20 but can only suckle 6. Baby quolls weigh less than a gram and are as big as a larva. The toughest cling to the mother, the others die. After 8 weeks, they're as big as a mouse and leave the pouch. The female goes to fetch food and leaves her offspring in the burrow. They eat insects, birds' eggs, grass and fruit. The animal is wild and difficult to approach.
Well, I'm glad that I've got this minute to talk to you because Warrawong Park, there's a couple of issues that I really need to go through with you.
Prue is John's second wife. His first gave him 2 children and left painful memories because John spent every penny he had on building his sanctuary, and his family never forgave him.
As I understand,
his wife obtained a divorce and never spoke to him again. Luckily, he met Prue soon afterwards. She helped him in his fight to make his dreams come true. The next milestone event was the acquisition of a second park near Sydney. The TV series called Skippy the Kangaroo was shot there. John and Prue's objective is to transform this wasteland into a wildlife reserve.
Morning, Bruce. See what you like.
Morning, John.
Now, have you all seen? Look, I've actually got some positive
These people form the core of operations. Bruce, a specialist in wild fauna, is the scientific advisor. Mark is responsible for communications, and Cheryl handles the Foundation's volunteer workers.
John, you can have one to take home.
Okay, what I think could be met if everything goes reasonably is that we start work on the 1st of July doing the project. The fence is probably about 2 months' work to build the fence, and there's probably then a month's work getting rid of the ferals.
Bruce, can you just talk to us a minute about the 5 species that can come from Warrawong?
The ones that can come from Warrawong is the potaroo, the rufous beton, and the eastern quoll, the 3 major candidates. We've also got the redneck pattymallon,
Southern brown bandicoot,
and the southern brown bandicoot, which we can move from Warrawong to Warrawong Park reasonably easily.
The first thing is to set up an environment that animals can live in. You can't just have a bare paddock, that different animals need different habitats. You need a year-round nectar flow for the birds so that the birds can live there. You've got to have all the different habitats so all the animals can live there. So you need open forest and closed forest and rainforest and scrubland and grasslands and wetlands. You need shallow water, you need deep water. So you need all the different habitats you have to set up. And the structure I think that we've set up does work. There'd be a dozen species of Australian mammal that have been taken off the endangered list because of what we either did or showed people how to do, and that's very important. Fourth stage here, about 1983, these came first preserved, and these were the common wallaby of the Adelaide Plains a few hundred years ago. They go very slow, and obviously we'll just sit down here. There you go. Unfortunately, they're very easily killed by foxes. The last one was officially recorded in the Barossa.
Almost all native Australian mammals are marsupials. That means their young start life in a pouch. Isolated for several million years, these species are unique in the world and were never subjected to the pressure of selection and the survival of the fittest exerted on mammals on the other continents. The colonization of Australia by the British in 1788 caused an ecological catastrophe. Many rabbits were brought to Australia on the colonists' boats, and when they ran free they devastated the crops. To fight the rabbits, predatory species like foxes and wild cats were imported, but they preferred to hunt the small marsupials rather than English rabbits, which continued to proliferate. Since that time, one mammal in three which has become extinct in the world has been Australian. Like the others, the thylacine or Tasmanian tiger, also a marsupial, finally died out in 1940. All marsupials, formerly at the top of the food chain, have a low reproduction rate. Too late, the wombats, wombats and koalas, which had never learned to be frightened, discovered that they had no means of defense.
When I was 7, my father bought 166 acres in the middle of millions of acres of virgin bushland and cleared 35 acres of it to plant an orchard, and to me it was just a paradise. When I was 10, he built a house there and we moved in and lived there. And so I had all this, it was all mine as far as I was concerned. There were no fences, it was just bush full of wonderful animals. And when I was 12, the first of the foxes and cats appeared. And by the time I was 14, there were no animals left in that bushland at all. They'd all gone. And then when I was 16, the undergrowth came, and when I was 16, the big fires came and burnt all the old hollow trees, and it was all gone forever. And nobody noticed it was done, and I think that's what made me want to recreate it. I wanted to recreate this paradise to live in, and really that's what Warrawong was all about. It was trying to rebuild this wonderful paradise that I'd lost.
In 1969, when John acquired Warrawong, it was a bare patch of land of about 100 acres. After fencing the park, he planted native vegetation and imported threatened species. Wounded or orphaned animals found safety in the sanctuary. John had to be very persuasive to convince the national parks to entrust him with rare animals like the bilby, the numbat, and the platypus. Each species chose its space in the sanctuary, and colonies gradually began to appear. 2 years later, these efforts were rewarded by the first birds. John and Prue opened the gates of their paradise to the public. John Wamsley became headline news. he put every cent of the family fortune, over 2 million Australian dollars, into building his paradise.
If a kangaroo hops past, you can hear that hitting the ground.
Right.
And if there's a koala or a possum up there, you can hear them. The trees are where it all starts. That's the basics of having a good environment with the trees. It's not the whole story, but you've got to have the trees. And when I came here, over 30 years ago, 34 years ago when I came here, there wasn't a tree on Warrawong. It was bare, it was an intensive area, and I planted all these trees.
Really? Wow, that's a lot of trees.
And that was the start, so the animals could live here. And one of the very special things that we did was that 30 years ago, Australians had forgotten about their wildlife. Nobody knew what a bettong or a bilby or a potoroo was. And when we started here and people came and saw them, suddenly they realised that Australia had more endangered animals than the rest of the world. And now we're saving animals. 20 or 30 years ago, there wasn't, every endangered animal in Australia was decreasing in numbers. There wasn't one conservation success story in Australia. And now, because of what we started, there's hundreds of them.
So you're going to plant many more of these on Warrawong?
I'm not going to, but you can.
Alright. Cool.
In about a month, I'm going to Sydney to build another Warrawong, to do this again in Sydney.
Wow.
So we're doing this, we're doing one in near Melbourne, we're doing one near Sydney now, and that way all the people in Australia can learn about what Australian wildlife are. If I stand back and look at the world and where it's going, and I look at the reality of life, then I don't think the world has much chance of survival. On the other hand, we have to do what we can. I'm a very logical person, and my logic tells me it can't be done, but my heart tells me it's got to be done. It would be nice if we could have us as people living with the environment, but I think that's too much to wish for. And the more I see of people, the more I realise that it's harder and harder. And this is why it's good, I suppose, to get old, because then the young people can come in that are enthusiastic and not so cynical. And really all I can do is try and ensure that there's enough left for the next generation, and hope that the next generation makes a more sensible choice than the last generation. That's all I can hope for.
Okay, everyone, just grab a seat down here if you can.
To teach future generations to protect nature, John provides schools with a complete
Grab a
educational program.
Okay, so hands up. What are some reasons why we plant trees and plants? Yep,
For oxygen.
that's right. Yep. Trees turn carbon dioxide into oxygen. Yep. For food for the animals. Yep, beautiful. Yep.
I was going to say shade and shelter for animals. If they're being chased by a feral, they can run up a tree or fly up a tree.
Absolutely. These are some really good suggestions. Yep. And soil quality. We need to protect our soils from being blown away by the wind and washed away by the water. We need to keep plants in the ground. For water quality, we've got real issues with water quality in South Australia, and the more trees and plants there are, the better our waterways are. So there's a whole range of reasons why we need to put plants back in the ground. And in fact, in Australia, we're clearing our native bushland at a faster rate than almost every country in the world. Okay, so we need to do a lot of work replanting. So we'll just pop the plants out, and then you can get going. So get into your tent groups, because that's the way you're going to plant them.
And just wait a moment.
Since 1983, John and his wife Prue have planted 40,000 trees in Warrawong. That's 2,000 trees per year. Their program also covers the observation of wildlife. The red kangaroo is the largest marsupial in the world and can reach almost 2 meters in height. Balancing itself with its tail, it jumps rather than gallops like other animals, a much more efficient use of energy. The common wallaby is 1/3 the size of the kangaroo, and the potoroo is a living fossil unchanged for 10 million years. This primitive species is the origin of all other kangaroos. Declared extinct in the west of Australia, where it has not been seen for 70 years, the potoroo is classified rare in the rest of the country, but is common in Tasmania. A cousin of the potoroo, the rufous bettung, has distinctive grey-white fur. Its turned-up nose and marmot-like postures make it seem like a cuddly toy, so it's quite surprising to find that this friendly-looking marsupial is quarrelsome. It seems to growl all the time, protesting when another potoroo eats roots it had reserved for lunch, or attacking a bandicoot, which whistles in rage. Despite its brawling temperament, the rufous bettung did not survive the foxes imported into Australia and has virtually disappeared in the south of the country. Unlike the others, the bandicoot does not look like a miniature kangaroo. This tiny marsupial resembles a rat, and this similarity with the European rodent is probably why it died out. The settlers thought that bandicoots brought plague and famine like rats in European cities. Since the importation of cats, these innocent marsupials have almost disappeared from the continent.
There's only two structures you can set up. You can either set up a charity or a business. In Australia, I think there's about $1 billion a year spent in the name of saving wildlife, and yet there were no success stories. In 1985, every rare and endangered species of everything in Australia was reducing in number. There wasn't one conservation success. And so what I did, I formed the Earth Sanctuaries Foundation, a charitable group, and I formed a business, Earth Sanctuaries Limited. And the idea was that they worked together for conservation outcomes. And we were the first group to actually say that we want successful outcomes. To us, whether we save a species or not is all about numbers, not about how well we feel, or how much money we raise, or how many people we get involved, or how many papers we publish, or anything. It's the numbers. That if the numbers are increasing, we're successful. If the numbers are decreasing, we're unsuccessful. And that's how our measures have always been.
This is the new project. This is Warrawong Park. Grant, I know you've seen some of the pictures that I brought back, but this gives us a much better perspective. If you can see, that's the car park there. I think the main road comes through.
Just comes straight through from the road, yeah.
And just in here, that little, but in that front section there, it actually is
like
as it was for the
7,000 other people, Grant and Rosemary are shareholders in Earth Sanctuary Limited, the company which manages John's sanctuaries. They're celebrating signing for the land in Sydney. For John, ecological tourism is the only solution to get some return on the dollars invested. The investors believe this is a chance to do something useful for the environment.
I guess the secret of our success has been to stay focused on the fact that we want our wildlife to stay free and to build the experiences around their freedom. All too often we've seen with other operators that they would like the wildlife to be free, but they succumb to the demands of the public, which is to see it instantly and to see it clearly and to see it in a way that is 100%. So if you want to see a koala, you don't go around looking up trees until you see one. You actually, it's there on a stick delivered to you. setting up protected areas is very hard work and not many people are prepared to do it. Warrawong and Earth Sanctuaries have received some wonderful accolades and some awards, but I don't think any of them have been personally awarded to John. And yet it was John that really drove and invented and solved all of the problems.
This is it. Look at this. Isn't this fantastic? This was it. This is what started it all. Well, it didn't start it all. This is what nearly ended it all, actually. I got hundreds of death threats from wearing this.
Yes.
They're going to kill me because I wore this. Well, people with leather shoes on don't get death threats, do they? Wonderful. Wonderful. Aren't people wonderful? But this was around the world, and you could see where it had got to.
Everyone in Australia knows the story of how John became famous. In 1991, he attended a government prize award ceremony for tourism and animal protection, wearing a hat made out of a cat. He believes that the only way to save Australian marsupials is to kill off European cats. The journalists and politicians were taken aback, and their welcome was less than warm. The press went wild. The public was shocked. John received hundreds of death threats and became a media star. The introvert changed into a showman to make himself heard. The only topic of conversation in southern Australia was John Wamsley and his cat hat.
Kill all the ones that come across your path. I just wonder how you got the authority to make a decision like that about what lives and what dies in your place.
The government carried out a survey. 12 months later, an amendment was voted authorising the hunting of the 4 million foxes and wild cats which proliferate in the country. That was not John's first fight. In 1969, he went to war to protect native Australian trees and cut down all the pines on his property, a criminal act at that time. He went to prison for that, but 25 years later, he was congratulated by Australia's Prime Minister.
I think that, probably if you go through life without going to jail, it probably means you haven't tried to do anything very serious in your life. That's to do with my philosophy of society. I mean, I don't want to be loved by society. I look at society and it's doing terrible things. So if society says to me, you're a wonderful person, then that worries me. I think, gee, I mightn't be doing what I should be doing. If society locks me up, I can handle that because I know that what I'm doing is right. Rachel.
Yes.
I've found some holes up there that I think is a bilby hole.
Okay.
And I'd like you to monitor it and check it and see what's coming and going.
Okay.
And because they're nocturnal and very secretive, you'll need to take the night vision gear with you so you can see
That's over in the office.
It's over there.
Oh, and it's just up on the
It's up on top of the hill.
Okay, I'll go up there tonight.
Okay, good on you.
Rachel is a young scientist. She volunteers for all animal observation missions and also manages the seed beds of local flora. These trees and flowers have always grown in Australia, but like the marsupials, few are left. John's idea is that everyone who wants to support the sanctuary should buy a native Australian plant.
It's very good for the birds, obviously. So do you think that would be good? Thank you. We need maybe 2 of these. 2 of them? Yeah.
At the top of the hill, Rachel is trying to find a burrow and identify the animal which lives in it. She hopes it is the extremely rare bilby, which is very difficult to observe. Bilbies usually live in the deserts in the centre of Australia, and this place seems ideal for a burrow. She's in luck. It is a bilby burrow.
You seen anything yet?
I've seen a big one just coming out around this hole here. I think it might be a marmoset.
It's Bruce's job to choose the animals to be sent to Sydney. Firstly, he has to find out if this is a male or a female. So he has to catch the animal. Bilbies are extremely wary, but Bruce has a slight advantage. He knows this marsupial adores peanut butter. Bilbies are omnivorous and belong to the bandicoot family. Their silky fur protects them from cold, and their long ears are probably designed to eliminate excess heat. The delicate bilbies were massacred by foxes and anti-rabbit poisons. In March 2001, thanks to John, 20 bilbies were released in Warrawong in the Adelaide Hills. They had died out there in 1950. Unlike the other marsupials, bilbies are very wary and frightened of people. With their supple walk and almost as light as air, they're almost invisible. However, their startled rabbit look, weasel nose and two-colour tail have made them very popular, and they've become Australia's chocolate symbol for Easter. The need to determine the animal's sex is a rare opportunity to film this strange creature with an infrared camera. Even in Warrawong, you hardly ever see bilbies. Bruce, the sanctuary's animal expert, knows that the animal could be traumatized if caught. To coax it into the bag, he prefers to blow on the bilby rather than touch it.
It's big. It is a big one. It's got a big stiff neck. Okay. Now grab the back legs. Okay, take the bag away. You just peel it back. Okay, that's beautiful.
Mom, look at you.
Just open it, you'll kick.
It's definitely a male.
There's a male. It's definitely a male. Okay. It's a male bilby. Just let him go now. We know it's a male now.
If you ask people about endangered animals, they'd talk about giraffes and panda and gorilla, and they didn't know about bilbies and bettongs and numbats, and we had all these animals with very few left. Woylies, there were only about 100 or 200 left in the world, and numbats, there was only about 100 left in the world, and nobody knew that, and so nobody wanted to save them because they didn't know them.
Today in Warrawong, the whole staff joins forces to plan the capture of one of the most fragile animals in the park. The objective, to check if a couple of platypi are in good enough health to move them to the new sanctuary. The tasks are assigned. Bruce will supervise the operation.
Tomorrow night for the platypus. Mark, you're right, you know what you're doing. We request enough.
The most extraordinary animal in the world will be caught the following day, in the evening. The operation has started. For the occasion, John and crew's son Shane will be helping Bruce, Jordan and Mark.
Paddles. Paddles in the boat.
The introduction of the platypus at Warrawong was John's first success. The animal, reputed not to survive in captivity, lives and reproduces in the sanctuary. Catching a platypus is no easy business. The net must not snag on underwater branches. It's essential to locate the animal as soon as it is caught. If the mammal is trapped and cannot rise to the surface to breathe, it drowns. The reason for the hunt is to provide specimens for the new sanctuary in Sydney.
It took 5 years to get platypus to when we got platypus, basically. It was a long process. It went on. It took a long while. So we came back with 3 females and put them in the Blackwater Lake, and then I set up the swamp above it, and the next year went back and caught 2 young males and put in the swamp and built a creek in between. It worked very well, and 2 young male platypuses appeared in 1991, and young platypus have appeared every year since, so it all worked very well. So what, do you think they're going to wait until they catch something and then eat? Are they?
Oh, I'm not going to wait. I'm going to go and eat something when I'm at 6:30. I'm going to have dinner.
All right.
Regardless of what's happening.
Okay. What is it now? 20 to 6.
John and his team start their vigil. During this time, also at Warrawong, invaluable Aboriginal knowledge is passed on to a visiting class of schoolchildren.
This small plant here, this bracken. Now, the Aboriginal people found out that on the ends of this bracken, and you can't see it at the moment because it's not the right season, but on the ends of the bracken, there's sometimes a little brown type of a frond. Okay, you've been told about this? Okay, this little frond, it's like, who's ever been bitten and stung by something in the bush? Yeah. Yeah? If you actually break it down and you crush it up, and then the sap that comes out of it, if you put that onto that sting, it will actually take that sting away. So this is one of the things the Aboriginal people noticed, just by looking, knowing their environment, plants, one of them being this. And they would actually get these...
I've spent an enormous amount of effort trying to get Aboriginals involved in our programs, and I've offered to build sanctuaries for them, and they're very keen on that, but it's very difficult to get it working. I mean, the problem is funding. You just can't get the funding. And then Jeanette, the Aboriginal lady that runs the Indigenous program in Warrawong, came to Warrawong one day and saw it and just said, hey, this is wonderful. Can we do some work here? And we basically said to her, well, you can. So she set up that program, and they're very welcome, and we've had to go and talk to all the elders and get approvals for all the dancers and that. And I, as the elder of Warrawong, gave the Warrawong to the Aboriginals.
Aboriginal people would tell the young people stories about Mulyawong because it would actually keep them away from the deep waters. And Mulyawong talks about how he lives under the water as a creature, and when there's children around that are unattended from adults, he would come up very, very close to the shore, to the end of the water edge, and he would try and get the children. So this is one of the stories that the Nunanjeri people's taught. I wonder if Warrawong is around here. I wonder if he's actually watching me at the moment. So with that, he thought he'd better just move on and just see what else he could find.
Bruce, platypus. Got something to put it in? Don't lose him. The easiest catch we've done for a while.
Holy shit, is that the quickest ever?
Just take it easy, don't fall in.
The platypus is very sensitive to magnetic fields and has electric movement detectors on the end of its bill. To increase the chances of capturing the animal, you have to turn off every electrical appliance, even cameras. It will only come out if it feels the surroundings are safe.
There's one over there, just where they moved.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, good.
Now, I would like you to take over the group essentially.
Are you there, Jordan? Come on, we've got a platypus.
Amazing.
Almost as soon as they catch the first platypus, the net moves again.
But somebody will have to keep watching.
While John looks after the first specimen, Bruce and Mark go to get the second.
This is good. This is something. That looks like a male. It's a big fella. Yep. Yes, good. Oh, look, look, there's actually venom there, Bruce, it looks like. Look at that, it's exuding.
I don't know if that
Too right. Yeah, it looks like it's like a jelly.
spur there?
Yeah, that's the spur right in there. Look at that.
You think it is?
Yes, too right. It would be. Why wouldn't
No,
it
it's
be?
normally on the ankle there.
Hey, what the hell was that?
Yeah, in the box.
Oh, fantastic. You are an absolute beauty.
We're going to watch this.
Oh, look at that. Just sitting there waiting. Now we've got two of these tonight, but we'll just look at one of them now. And yeah, I hope it's not a big male too. Tail is in fairly good condition. She's not over fat, but when they're in poor condition, you can bend it right over, and this one won't bend at all. And she's nearly in top condition, so she's in good condition, and her fur is extremely good.
Have we met her before? You can feel
Yeah, no, she hasn't got a microchip, no. Not seen a platypus in better condition. So there you are, Jordan. She's got her eyes open now. Oh, she just closed them. See how she's got the eyelid that comes over there? See, she's not going to look at you, is she?
Right.
Look at that. Isn't that wonderful? She's open now.
Small eyes, aren't they?
Isn't that wonderful? Yeah. She's got a very soft bill. It's not like a duck. It's like a leather.
have a feel.
It's skin. You can feel it. Yeah.
Quite, yeah.
And
It's not a hard.
yeah.
No,
Oops.
she doesn't like that. Yeah, okay.
And sorry about that.
Alright, and what about babies? Like, how do babies feed? And
The babies, they lay eggs,
alright.
and then the baby feeds, and we don't know much about this, but on their tummy, when the baby muzzles their tummy, the milk comes out just from the skin, and the baby just laps it from the skin, and we don't know a great deal about that, but just on their tummy, that's all we know. So we're going to put her back in a box now. She's fine, everything's all right, and put her in the pool and let her get on with her night's work like she set out to until we interfered with it. Platypus is a living fossil. It evolved about 200 million years ago, and it's an incredible animal.
The first time a platypus was brought back to England from Australia in 1799, people said it was a hoax, a joker who had stuffed an animal, then added a beaver's tail and a duck's bill. At the Natural History Museum in London, where it was studied, Dr. George Shaw started by looking for the traces of a seam between the skin and the animal's bill. In vain. This egg-laying mammal really does exist. The first name it was given was Paradoxus. Platypus came later. Its genus was given as Ornithorhynchus, from the Greek for a bird's beak. The Australian public is mad about the platypus, and every zoo wants a specimen. But usually the mammal refuses to reproduce and dies in captivity. The platypus is undoubtedly one of the strangest animals in the world. It is difficult to classify as the mixture of its attributes is so unexpected. It has the same reproductive and digestive apparatus as reptiles. Like birds, it lays eggs. It suckles its young, but does not have nipples. Its habits are semi-aquatic, and despite all that, it's a mammal, a member of the monotreme family. It has a poisonous spur at the end of the rear limbs that females lose when they become adult. A glance at the back legs is enough to decide on the sex. The electric movement detectors on the end of its bill detect the movements of worms and crayfish, its favorite food. Out of the water, its webs fold up under the palms to help it to dig a burrow, which ends in a nest where the female lays up to 3 eggs. The tail can store a large quantity of fat, which enables the platypus to go for several days without eating if necessary. Formerly hunted for its fur, thicker than that of a polar bear, this very rare species is now protected. Trading in its fur was prohibited in 1920, and keeping a platypus in captivity is illegal. Its habitat is now threatened by pollution, and it continues to disappear.
It's good when you put them back, and that's the highlight of my life, I guess, when I take some animals and put them somewhere that's been set up for them, and you put them down and off they go. They bite your finger or scratch you and say, we don't want to know you, and off they go. And you know that they're going to thrive and that they're going to build a colony, and you take them back to places where they once used to live and get them living there again, and that's the real highlight of it all, I guess.
John Wamsley has planted thousands of trees and reintroduced animal species in danger. He never forgets that Australia is also the home of the Aboriginals, and John pays homage to them by encouraging members of their community to pass on their knowledge and their dances, a role of education and memory entrusted to these natives who have always respected nature.
I guess it was summed up the way Iron Earth Sanctuary is summed up best by a politician in New South Wales, Bob Davis, who was complaining about me one day and said the trouble with John Wamsley is he doesn't know whether he's running a business, a charity or a religion. It is, to me, a mission, and it's not a mission that I'm driven to or anything, it's just that I can see that I can save these animals as species, and I just can't not do it. I wouldn't be able to sleep at night if I just forsake them, I suppose. I know I have the knowledge and the wherewithal to save them, so I have to save them, and really that's all there is about it. It's not because I like doing it or I want to do it, it's because I just can't not do it, I guess. All I can say to everybody who wishes to save wildlife or to save the world really is to get involved, to find out. Don't just believe what you're told by the media, find out what's going on and get involved. And one of the good ways to get involved is to become part of what we're doing, either as a volunteer or as a shareholder or even as a visitor. Come and see what we're doing and get involved. That's all I can ask people to do.